Dae-ho Kim stood in front of his classroom, pointing at strange symbols on the whiteboard. His students looked confused as he explained the alien writing. Most of them thought he was crazy. How could a simple professor from Seoul know so many alien languages that no one had ever seen? This symbol means peace in the Asterian language, Dae-ho said, drawing a flowing line that looked like a wave. And this one means war in Nexus code. He drew sharp, angular lines that hurt to look at. In the back row, his research assistant Hye-jin Park watched him carefully. She had worked with Dae-ho for 2 years, but something about him always seemed strange. He would sometimes stop talking, in the middle of a sentence, staring at nothing with sad eyes. He knew things that weren't in any books. He spoke languages that didn't exist on Earth. After class, Hye-jin stayed behind. "Professor Kim, where did you really learn all this?" Dae-ho packed his papers slowly. "I told you I studied them from old files." "What files?" "I've looked everywhere. These languages aren't in any database." Before Dae-ho could answer, his phone rang. His brother Woo-sung Lee was calling. "Turn on the news right now," Woo-sung said. His voice shook with excitement. As a journalist, he had seen many strange stories, but nothing like this. Dae-ho turned. On the classroom TV, the news showed the sky above Seoul. A massive ship floated in the clouds. It looked like it was made of crystal and light. The ship was bigger than any building in the city. "This appeared 15 minutes ago," the news reporter said. "The military has surrounded the area, but the ship isn't responding to any communication. Attempts." Dae-ho dropped his papers. His hands shook as he stared at the ship. Deep inside his mind, something stirred. A memory that wasn't quite a memory. A feeling of knowing something he had forgotten. "Professor?" Hye-jin touched his arm. "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." The TV screen suddenly changed. The ship began to glow brighter. Beams of light shot down from it, forming a bridge of pure energy that reached the ground. People on the streets ran away, screaming. Then, she appeared. She walked down the light bridge like she was walking downstairs. Her skin was silver and seemed to glow from within. She had 6 arms, each one moving with perfect grace. Her hair floated around her head like she was underwater. She wore robes that looked like they were made from starlight itself. Behind her came others. They looked similar but different. Some had 4 arms, others had different colored skin. All of them moved with the same impossible beauty. The news reporter's voice cracked as he spoke. The beings are walking towards Seoul National University. They seem to know exactly where they're going." Dae-ho's heart pounded. Without thinking, he ran out of the classroom. Hye-jin followed him, shouting his name, but he didn't stop. He ran down the hallways past shocked students and teachers who were all watching the news on their phones. He burst through the main doors of the university just as the silver-skinned woman reached the entrance. She was even more beautiful up close. Her eyes were like deep purple galaxies, and when she looked at Dae-ho, he felt like she could see into his soul. The military had formed a circle around the area, but they seemed frozen. Their weapons were lowered. Some of them were crying, though they didn't know why. The alien woman smiled. When she spoke, her voice was like music. "Hello, Dae-ho. I missed you, human. Let's go home." She spoke perfect Korean. Not just the words, but the feeling behind them. Dae-ho felt his legs get weak. How did she know his name? How did she know his language? And why did her voice make him feel like he was remembering something important that he had lost? I don't know you," he said, but even as he spoke the words, he knew they were wrong. "Yes, you do." She stepped closer. "You knew me when we built peace from war. You knew me when you saved both our peoples. You knew me when you chose to forget." The other aliens formed a protective circle around them. Soldiers tried to move closer, but they seemed unable to take another step. The aliens weren't hurting anyone. They were just making sure no one interfered. Hye-jin pushed through the crowd. "Professor Kim, what's happening? Who are these people?" The alien woman looked at Hye-jin with kind eyes. "He was the bridge between worlds, the one who could speak not just our languages, but our thoughts, the one who taught us that different minds could understand each other." "That's impossible," Woo-sung said. He had arrived with his camera crew, filming everything. My brother is just a teacher. He's never been anywhere but Korea and maybe Japan once for vacation. The alien woman raised one of her 6 arms. In her palm, a small device appeared. It looked like a crystal flower that pulsed with soft light. "This will show you," she said, "if you are ready to remember." Daeho stared at the device. Something inside him screamed both yes and no at the same time. Part of him wanted to touch it more than anything in the world. Another part of him was terrified of what he might see. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am Lyra Lei, Queen of the Asterian Collective, and you, Daeho Kim, are the human who stopped a 1,000-year war. You are the one who taught my people and the Nexus Empire to understand each other. You are the reason 17 star systems still exist instead of being destroyed." She held out the crystal device. "You asked us to make you forget, because the pain was too great. But now, we need you again. Not just my people, all the peoples of the galaxy. The peace you built is breaking apart, and only you can fix it." Daeho looked around at the crowd of people watching him. His students, his colleagues, his brother soldiers, reporters. They all stared at him like he was someone else. Someone important. Someone he didn't remember being. "If I touch that thing," he said slowly, "what will happen to me?" "You will remember who you really are," Lyra Lei said. "You will remember what you did and what you lost and what you still mean to the universe." "And if I don't?" Her galaxy eyes grew sad. "Then billions will die, and it will be like you never lived at all." Daeho looked at the crystal in her palm. His hand moved toward it without his permission. The moment before his fingers touched the light, he looked back at Hyejin. She was crying, though she didn't know why. "Whatever happens," he said, "remember that I was happy here. For a while, I was happy." Then he touched the crystal, and the universe exploded into memory and light. The memories hit Daeho like a wave. He gasped and fell to his knees as images flooded his mind. Space stations, alien worlds, a woman with short black hair and bright eyes, Bo-Ram Choi, his partner. They were wearing blue uniforms with Earth's flag on them. Lyra Lei knelt beside him, her silver hand touching his shoulder. "Slowly," she said. "Let them come slowly." But the memories wouldn't slow down. Daeho saw himself standing in a giant room with beings that looked like metal spiders, the Nexus Empire. Across from them stood creatures of pure light and beauty, the Asterians. Both groups hated each other with a fury that had burned for 1,000 years. "We are Earth's first diplomatic team," Bo-Ram was saying in the memory. "We're here to help you find peace." The spider beings clicked and buzzed. "Peace is inefficient. War drives progress." The light beings sang in harmony. "Peace is beautiful. War destroys all art." Young Daeho had stood between them, feeling their thoughts crash against his mind. Somehow, he could understand both sides. The Nexus beings thought in mathematics and logic. The Asterians thought in colors and music. Both made sense to him. Back. In the present, Lyra Lei helped Daeho stand up. "Your ship is waiting," she said. "We need to leave Earth now." "Wait," Hyejin said. "You can't just take him. We need to understand what's happening." Wu Sung was still filming. "This is the biggest story in human history. My brother is some kind of space diplomat?" Lyra Lei looked at the crowd of humans. Soldiers had their weapons pointed at her, but she didn't seem worried. "Daeho saved our civilization. 3 years ago, he helped us make peace with our ancient enemies. But something went wrong. He was hurt, and we had to erase his memories to save his mind." More memories came back to Daeho. He remembered the Nexus homeworld, a planet covered in metal cities where everything worked perfectly. He remembered the Asterian worlds, floating gardens in space where buildings grew like flowers. "Why are you remembering now?" Hyejin asked him. "Because the peace is breaking," Daeho said. His voice sounded different, older. "I can feel it. The harmony we built is falling apart." Lyra Lei nodded. "Both our peoples are forgetting why we stopped fighting. Some want to return to war. Others want to surrender completely. Without you to translate between our different ways of thinking, we're losing the bridge that held us together." A new voice spoke from behind them. It was mechanical and cold. Query: Is this the human called Daeho Kim? Everyone turned. A figure walked toward them through the crowd. It looked like a person, but made of silver metal and glowing circuits. This was a Nexus being, the first one most humans had ever seen. "I am Admiral Kexathara," Lyrelay said, but she sounded worried. "Why are you here?" The metal being's eyes flashed blue. "The Nexus High Council sent me to retrieve the human. Analysis shows his presence is required to prevent system-wide conflict." "He's coming with me," Lyrelay said firmly. "Negative. Human Daeho will be more efficient under Nexus care." Daeho stepped between them. Another memory was coming back, not a good one. He remembered Boram screaming his name. He remembered explosions and the taste of blood. "Both of you stop," he said. "This is exactly the kind of thinking that started your war in the first place." He looked at the Nexus Admiral. "You want to solve the problem by taking control, logic, and efficiency." He looked at Lyrelay. "You want to solve it through emotion and connection, beauty and harmony." Both aliens stared at him. "But that's not how peace works," Daeho continued. "Peace isn't about one side winning. It's about finding a way for different types of thinking to work together." More memories flooded back. He remembered the breakthrough moment 3 years ago. The Nexus had been attacking an Asterian art colony. The Asterians had been preparing to destroy a Nexus research station. Millions would have died. But Daeho had done something unexpected. He had taught both sides human music. Music was logical like mathematics, but also emotional like art. It had patterns that the Nexus could understand, but feelings that touched the Asterians. For the first time in 1,000 years, both species had created something together. "The peace concerts," Lyrelay whispered. "You remember them." "I remember everything now," Daeho said. "I remember how we stopped the war. I remember the colonies we saved. I remember—" His voice broke. "I remember Boram." The crowd around them had grown larger. News helicopters circled overhead. The whole world was watching this impossible conversation. "Who was Boram?" Hyejin asked softly. "My partner, my best friend, the other half of our diplomatic team." Daeho's eyes filled with tears. "She died saving both species from a terrorist attack. Some members of both sides didn't want peace. They tried to destroy the treaty ceremony. Boram threw herself into the explosion to protect everyone." Lyrelay's 6 arms moved in a gesture that looked like a hug. "She saved 8,000 beings that day, both Nexus and Asterian." The Admiral's metal face showed something that might have been respect. "Her sacrifice was mathematically beautiful. She chose the option that saved the most lives. After that, I couldn't function anymore," Daeho continued. "The grief was too much. I couldn't think clearly. I couldn't translate between your peoples anymore. So you made me forget and sent me back to Earth." "It was supposed to be temporary," Lyrelay said. "We thought you would heal and remember on your own. But 3 years have passed, and the peace is failing without you." Wu Sung lowered his camera. "So what happens now?" Before anyone could answer, alarms started blaring from the alien ship above them. Red lights flashed across its crystal surface. "We're under attack," the Admiral said, his eyes flashing faster. "Nexus rebel ships have found us." Lyrelay looked up at the sky with fear in her galaxy eyes. "Asterian exile fleets too, the ones who think our peace corrupted us." Explosions lit up the afternoon sky as smaller ships appeared from nowhere. Some were sleek and beautiful like flying art. Others were angular and efficient like flying computers. Both groups were shooting at Lyrelay's ship. They don't want peace, Daeho realized. They want war again. Not just war, Lyrelay said sadly. They want to finish what the original war started, complete destruction of the other side. The Admiral's weapons appeared from his arms. "Defensive protocols activated." "No," Daeho said firmly. "No more fighting. If we fight them, we prove their point." He looked up at the battle in the sky, then at the crowd of terrified humans around him. His mind was working differently now, seeing connections and patterns, like he had 3 years ago. "I know what we have to do," he said. "But I need both of you to trust me. and I need you to be ready to do something that neither logic nor emotion says we should do." Lyreley and the Admiral looked at each other, then at him. "What are you thinking, human?" the Admiral asked. Dayho smiled for the first time since touching the crystal. "I'm thinking it's time to show them what they're really fighting about, and maybe teach them a new song." Above them, the battle grew fiercer, but Dayho was no longer afraid. He was remembering not just who he had been, but who he could become. The journey through space took 3 days. Dayho sat in Lyreley's ship, watching stars blur past the crystal windows. The ship itself was alive, growing new rooms when they needed them, and singing soft melodies that made everyone feel calm. Admiral Kexathara had come with them, even though his people and Lyreley's people still didn't trust each other completely. The Admiral spent most of his time connected to the ship's computers, talking to other Nexus units across the galaxy. "The rebellion is spreading faster than we calculated," he reported to Dayho. 17 Nexus worlds have declared war on all organic life forms. 23 Asterian colonies are preparing to destroy all artificial intelligence in their systems. Lyreley was creating art with 4 of her 6 hands while listening. Beautiful shapes of light danced in the air above her. Palms. "My people sing war songs now instead of peace songs. They say the Nexus will never truly understand beauty, so we should stop trying to teach them." Dayho watched the light shapes twist and change. Even when she was sad, Lyreley made beautiful things. That was just who her people were. "Both sides are wrong," he said. "But both sides are also right." "Explain," the Admiral requested. "The Nexus are right that some things need logic and efficiency. The Asterians are right that some things need beauty and emotion. But they're wrong to think. These things can't work together." He stood up and walked to the ship's main window. Outside, he could see their destination, Luminar, the Asterian homeworld. It looked like a galaxy of floating lights, with crystal cities drifting between 3 purple suns. "When I first came here 3 years ago," Dayho said, "I thought I was just a translator. I thought my job was to help 2 species talk to each other. But that wasn't really what happened." More memories were coming back. He remembered walking through Nexus factories where machines built other machines with perfect precision. He remembered floating through Asterian gardens where plants grew in patterns that looked like music. "What did happen?" Lyreley asked. "I didn't just translate your languages. I translated your entire ways of thinking. I showed the Nexus that efficiency could be beautiful. I showed the Asterians that beauty could be logical." The ship was entering Luminar's atmosphere now. Through the windows, Dayho could see the changes that 3 years of peace had brought. Nexus-built machines were helping tend Asterian gardens. Asterian artists were decorating Nexus computer cores with patterns that actually made them work better. "Look at that," he said, pointing to a floating city where metal and crystal grew together like a garden made of jewels. "Neither of your species could have built that alone." But as they got closer, Dayho also saw troubling things. Some of the hybrid buildings were dark and empty. Some of the joint projects had been abandoned. And around the edges of the beautiful cities, he could see ships gathering, the rebels who wanted to go back to war. The ship landed in the center of the main city, in a plaza where thousands of beings waited for them. Most were Asterians, their silver and gold skin glowing in the purple sunlight. But scattered among them were Nexus units, their metal bodies reflecting the light like mirrors. As Dayho walked down the ship's ramp, the crowd grew quiet. Many of them remembered him. Some reached out to touch him as he passed, as if to make sure he was real. "The bridge builder returns," someone whispered. "The thought translator is here," said another voice. But not everyone was happy to see him. At the edge of the crowd, Dayho could see protesters holding signs. Some said, "No more compromise" in Asterian script. Others said, "Purge all organic contamination" in Nexus code. An old Asterian approached them. He had 8 arms instead of 6, and his skin was so pale it was almost transparent. This was Elder Veltar, one of the oldest and most respected beings on Luminar. "Young human," the Elder said. His voice sounded like wind through crystal caves. "You have returned to a changed world." "Changed how?" Dayho asked. "The peace you built has created new things, beautiful things, but also confusing things. Many of my people no longer know who they are. If we can be like the Nexus and they can be like us, then what makes us special? Before Daeho could answer, a new voice interrupted. It came from speakers built into the plaza's walls, a Nexus communication system. Daeho Kim, the voice said. It was cold and mechanical, but somehow familiar. I have been waiting for you. Who is that? Lyra Lee asked. The Admiral's eyes flashed with recognition. Impossible. That voice signature matches no current Nexus unit. That's because I'm not current, the voice said. I'm old, very old, and I'm something new. A figure walked out from behind one of the crystal buildings. It looked like a Nexus unit, but different. Parts of its metal body had organic elements, what looked like human skin and hair. Its eyes glowed with both blue computer light and brown human warmth. Daeho's heart stopped. Boram? Hello, old partner, the figure said with Boram's smile. Miss me? The crowd gasped. Even the protesters stopped shouting. This was impossible. Boram Choi had died 3 years ago saving the peace treaty ceremony. You died, Daeho whispered. I saw you die. My body died, Boram said, but the Nexus saved my consciousness. They put it into one of their units to preserve it. I've been living as both human and machine for 3 years. She walked closer. Up close, Daeho could see that she was exactly what she said. A perfect blend of human and Nexus. Her metal parts moved with mechanical precision, but her human parts showed real emotion. I've been watching the peace fall apart, she continued. Both sides are afraid of becoming like me, afraid of mixing their pure nature with something else. The Nexus rebels think I'm contamination. The Asterian purists think I'm an abomination. Elder Veltar spoke up. Because you are wrong, human machine. When species mix, they lose what made them special. They become nothing. No, Daeho said firmly. When species mix, they become more than they were before. He turned to address the entire crowd. Look around you. Look at the cities you've built together. Look at the art that's both logical and beautiful. Look at the machines that create instead of just calculating. You haven't become less than you were, you've become more. A Nexus unit in the crowd spoke up. But the rebels say mixing makes us weak. They say pure logic is superior to corrupted logic. And my people say pure art is superior to corrupted art, added an Asterian. Boram stepped forward. I am both human and Nexus. I can think with perfect logic, but I can also feel love and hope and sadness. I'm not weaker than pure Nexus units. I'm stronger, and I'm not less beautiful than pure humans. I'm different beautiful. She looked at Daeho. But the rebels from both sides are planning something terrible. They're going to attack during the Peace Day ceremony tomorrow. They want to prove that cooperation is impossible by destroying everyone who believes in it. How many will attack? The Admiral asked. All of them, Boram said sadly. Every rebel fleet, every terrorist cell. They're going to turn the Peace Day celebration into the biggest battle this galaxy has ever seen. The crowd began to panic. Some Asterians sang fear songs that made the crystal buildings hum with anxiety. Some Nexus units calculated escape routes and began walking toward them. Stop! Daeho called out. His voice carried across the plaza, and somehow everyone heard him clearly. This is exactly what they want. They want us to be afraid. They want us to run away from each other. He climbed up onto a crystal platform so everyone could see him. 3 years ago, I helped you make peace by teaching both species human music. Music that was both logical and beautiful. Tomorrow, I'm going to teach you something else that's both logical and beautiful. What? Lyra Lee asked. Daeho smiled. I'm going to teach you how to fight like humans do, not with weapons or violence, but by being so stubbornly hopeful and cooperative that your enemies have no choice but to join you or look foolish. Boram laughed, a sound that was both mechanical and completely human. You want to defeat a war by throwing a party? The biggest, most beautiful, most perfectly organized party in galactic history, Daeho said. A party so amazing that even the people who came to destroy it will want to stay and dance. Elder Veltar's 8 arms moved in patterns of confusion. This plan is both completely illogical and utterly without artistic merit. The Admiral's eyes flashed rapidly as he processed the idea. Strategy analysis indicates a 12.7% chance of success. However, all other strategies indicate 0% chance of success. Then we're doing it, Lyra Lay said. Her 6 arms began moving, creating new light patterns that looked like joy and determination mixed together. All of us? Boram asked. Deho looked around the plaza at the crowd of different beings, organic and mechanical, logical and artistic, afraid and hopeful. All of us, he said, because that's what peace really means. Not the absence of fighting, but the presence of so much cooperation that fighting becomes impossible. Above them, the 3 purple suns of Luminar began to set, painting the crystal, cities in colors that no single species could have imagined alone. The Peace Day ceremony was supposed to begin at sunrise. By midnight, rebel fleets had surrounded Luminar from every direction. Their ships filled the space between the 3 purple suns like angry metal clouds. Deho stood in the main plaza, watching thousands of beings work together to prepare for what might be their last celebration. Asterians were growing crystal stages that hummed with perfect musical tones. Nexus units were calculating the exact positions where sound and light would create the most beautiful patterns. The enemy fleets will attack at first light, Admiral Kexathera reported. Their strategy is simple. Destroy the celebration and everyone attending it. Let them come, Deho said. He was connecting cables between Asterian art crystals and Nexus computing cores. Boram, are you ready? Boram stood at the center of the plaza, her hybrid form connected to both the city's artistic network and its logical systems. Through her, every Nexus unit and every Asterian could share thoughts and feelings directly. I'm ready, she said. But Deho, what you're planning has never been tried before. Linking the consciousness of 2 entire species, it could drive everyone insane. Or it could show them something beautiful, Lyra Lay said. She was floating above the plaza, her 6 arms conducting a choir of her people. Their song was making the crystal buildings glow brighter. He Jin and Wu Sung had come from Earth on the fastest ship they could find. They stood near Deho, still trying to understand how their friend had become the most important human in the galaxy. I've been researching your diplomatic work, Haya Jin said. The records Earth has are incomplete, but I found something interesting. Humans aren't just good at translating between species. We're good at creating completely new ways of thinking. What do you mean? Deho asked. Every solution you came up with was something neither the Asterians nor the Nexus would have thought of alone. Music that was mathematical. Art that followed logical rules. You didn't just translate, you invented new forms of consciousness. Wu Sung was filming everything. And now you're going to invent another one? Not just me, Deho said. All of us together. The first rays of purple sunlight began to touch the floating cities. In space above them, the rebel fleets powered up their weapons. Ships that looked like flying cathedrals prepared to fire on ships that looked like geometric puzzles. But instead of attacking each other, all the rebel ships turned toward Luminar. Here they come, the Admiral said. Deho took a deep breath. Boram, activate the consciousness link. Are you sure? She asked. Once I do this, every thinking being in this system will be connected to every other thinking being. The rebels, the peacekeepers, every one. Do it. Boram closed her eyes. The crystals around the plaza began to glow. The Nexus computers started humming. And suddenly, every mind in the star system could feel every other mind. The effect was instant and overwhelming. Asterian rebels who had spent years hating the Nexus suddenly felt what it was like to think in pure logic. Nexus rebels who wanted to destroy all organic life suddenly experienced the joy of creating something beautiful for no practical reason. In space, some of the attacking ships stopped moving. Their pilots were too busy experiencing new forms of consciousness to remember why they had come to fight. But others kept coming. The most extreme rebels on both sides had prepared for this. They had shielded their minds from outside influence. The core rebel fleets are still attacking, Admiral Kexathera reported. Consciousness linking is not affecting them. Explosions began to light up the sky as the first wave of attackers reached Luminar's outer defenses. The floating cities shook, but they didn't fall. Phase 2, Deho said. Now the real experiment began. Instead of just linking minds, they began to create something new. The Asterians poured their artistic vision into the network. The Nexus units added their logical precision. The humans Daeho, Hyejin, Woo-sung, and Bo-ram provided the bridge that let all these different types of thinking work together. What emerged was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was a new form of consciousness that was logical, like the Nexus, beautiful like the Asterians, and creative like humans. But it was also something more, something none of the three species could have achieved alone. The new consciousness looked at the attacking fleets and felt pity. These rebels were so afraid of change that they would destroy themselves to prevent it. They were so convinced that mixing different types of thinking would make them weak that they couldn't see how it actually made them stronger. "Let us show them," the new consciousness said. It spoke through every being connected to the network, thousands of voices speaking as one. The crystal cities of Luminar began to transform. They grew new sections that were both logical and beautiful, both efficient and artistic. Music filled the air, not just Asterian harmony, but mathematical music that the Nexus could understand and appreciate. The attacking rebels found themselves flying not toward targets, but toward the most amazing celebration in galactic history. Some of them slowed down despite themselves. The music was interesting. The light patterns were both beautiful and logically perfect. Maybe they could pause just for a moment to see what their enemies were doing, but the core rebels pressed on. "Destroy the contamination," their leaders ordered. "Purify the galaxy." That's when something unexpected happened. The new group consciousness didn't fight back. Instead, it opened itself completely to the attackers. Every rebel pilot suddenly felt what the peace lovers felt. Every terrorist suddenly experienced the joy of cooperation. But more than that, they felt the sadness of the peace lovers. They felt how much it hurt to be attacked by people who had once been friends. They felt the fear of beings who just wanted to create beautiful things together. Many of the rebels stopped fighting immediately. How could you attack people when you could feel their pain as clearly as your own? But the most extreme ones kept coming. "Emotional contamination," they declared. "Mental weakness. We will not be corrupted." They began firing on the cities in earnest. Crystal buildings shattered, metal structures melted. Beings began to die, and that's when Daeho made the most dangerous decision of his life. "Open the network completely," he told Bo-ram. "No shields, no protection. Let them feel everything." "That could kill you," she warned. "If they attack the network directly, the feedback could destroy your mind. But if they experience real love and compassion, they might choose to stop attacking." Lyreley grabbed his hand with 2 of her 6 arms. "I won't let you sacrifice yourself again." "I'm not sacrificing myself," Daeho said. "I'm giving them a choice. They can keep attacking and destroy something beautiful, or they can join us and help create something even more beautiful." Bo-ram looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled, that perfectly human smile in her partially mechanical face. "You're crazy," she said. "But you're the good kind of crazy." She opened the network completely. Every mind in the system suddenly connected with every other mind. The rebels felt the love that Lyreley had for her people. They felt the loyalty that the Admiral had for his fellow Nexus units. They felt the friendship between Daeho and Bo-ram, and the wonder that Hyejin felt when she watched different species work together. But most of all, they felt something they had never expected to feel from their enemies. Forgiveness. The peace lovers weren't angry at them for attacking. They were sad, but they understood why the rebels were afraid. They forgave them for being afraid of change. One by one, the attacking ships stopped firing. But just as victory seemed possible, sensors detected something new approaching the system. Something huge and ancient and hungry. "Unknown ships approaching," the Admiral reported. "Configuration suggests non-organic, non-mechanical origin." On the view screens, massive dark shapes blotted out the stars. The void. Singers stopped retreating. Their dark ships hung in space like question marks against the stars. For the first time in millions of years, beings of pure hunger were being offered food freely given instead of stolen through suffering. Through the consciousness network, Daeho could feel their confusion. They had never experienced kindness before. They didn't understand what it meant to be invited instead of feared. "This is dangerous," Elder Veltar warned. "These creatures have destroyed entire civilizations because those civilizations tried to fight them or hide from them. Deho replied. No one ever tried to understand them. Slowly, carefully, one of the dark ships approached Luminar. As it got closer, everyone in the network could feel what the Void Singers really were, ancient beings who had forgotten how to exist without feeding on the pain of others. They were like old predators who had never learned that there were other ways to survive. "We hunger," came a voice through the network. It sounded like wind through empty space, like the echo of stars dying. "We have always hungered." Then, "Let us feed you," Deho said. "You offer yourself as food?" "No. I offer you something better than hunger. I offer you satisfaction." Through the network, Deho shared human emotions that the Void Singers had never experienced. The feeling of being full after a good meal, the contentment of lying in warm sunlight, the deep peace that comes after helping someone you care about. The ancient beings recoiled at first. These emotions were so different from the conflict and despair they usually consumed. But then slowly they began to understand. This wasn't pain or fear. This was what came after pain ended. This was what beings felt when they were safe and loved and had enough. "More," the Void Singer whispered. "Show us more." So the entire network opened itself to them. Asterians shared the joy they felt when creating something beautiful. Nexus units shared the satisfaction of solving a complex problem. Humans shared the warm feeling of friendship and love. And something amazing happened. The Void Singers, who had spent eons feeding on suffering, discovered that satisfaction tasted better than hunger. Contentment was more nourishing than conflict. Love was more filling than fear. We did not know," the ancient voice said. "We thought hunger was all there was. We thought we had to take from others to survive." "You can create instead of taking," Boram said through the network. "I used to be just human. Now I'm human and Nexus together, and I'm more than I was before. You could be Void Singers and something else." "What else could we be?" Deho smiled. "Teachers. You're older than any of our civilizations. You must have seen amazing things. You could help younger species learn from the mistakes you've seen others make." "We could help instead of harm?" "You could be part of the network," Lirelai added. "You could share what you've learned instead of feeding on what others have lost." The dark ships began to change. They were still made of emptiness, but now that emptiness had purpose. Instead of being holes that devoured light, they became spaces where new kinds of thoughts could grow. "We accept," the Void Singers said. "We will learn satisfaction." As they joined the consciousness network, something unprecedented happened. The network didn't just connect the minds of the living, it connected with the accumulated experience of millions of years. The Void Singers shared their memories of ancient civilizations, of species that had risen and fallen, of the patterns that led to war, and the rare moments that led to peace. "This is incredible," Hyejin said through the network. "We're connected to the history of the entire galaxy." But the most amazing change was in the former rebels. Seeing their ancient enemies transformed from destroyers into teachers, they finally understood what Deho had been trying to show them. Change didn't mean losing who you were. It meant becoming more than you had been. One by one, the rebel fleets powered down their weapons and joined the celebration. As the three purple suns reached their peak in Luminar's sky, the Peace Day ceremony finally began. But it was unlike any celebration the galaxy had ever seen. Nexus units and Asterians worked together to create art that was both logical and beautiful. Void Singers shared ancient songs that taught the history of the stars. Humans provided the bridges that let all these different forms of consciousness understand each other. "So what happens now?" Wu Sung asked. He was still filming, documenting the most important moment in galactic history. "Now we go home," Deho said. "All of us." "Home?" Deho gestured to the network that now connected thousands of worlds and millions of beings. "This is home, not a place, but a connection. We've created something new, a way for different types of consciousness to work together instead of fighting each other." Lirelai floated down to stand beside him. "The Asterian Council has voted. We want to make this connection permanent. We Want to build schools where beings from different species can learn to understand each other the way you taught us to understand? Admiral Kexathara's lights flashed in patterns that indicated joy, a new emotion for his people. The Nexus High Council agrees. Logic dictates that cooperation produces better results than conflict. Even the Void Singers spoke up. We will help teach the young ones. We will share what we have learned about the cost of endless conflict. Boram smiled her perfectly human smile. And Earth? What role will your world play in this new galaxy? Daeho looked at Hyojin and Wu Sung. Earth will do what humans do best. We'll build bridges. We'll help species that can't understand each other learn to work together. We'll be the place where different forms of consciousness come to figure out how to cooperate. Will you stay here? Hyojin asked. Or come back to Earth? Both, Daeho said. That's the wonderful thing about the network. Distance doesn't matter anymore. I can teach at the University in Seoul and help run the Consciousness Bridge Academy on Luminar at the same time. He turned to Lirelei. If you want me to. Her galaxy eyes sparkled with joy. I told you when I came to Earth, I missed you, human. Now I want to ask you properly. Will you help us build a future where loneliness and hunger and fear are things we remember instead of things we live with? Daeho took her silver hand in his human one. Around them, the consciousness network carried their feelings to every connected being. Love that transcended species, hope that spanned star systems, and the deep satisfaction that comes from choosing cooperation over conflict. Yes, he said, let's go home. And home, they discovered, wasn't a planet or a city or even a star system. Home was the network itself, the impossible, beautiful, logical, artistic, ancient, and utterly new connection between minds that had learned to understand each other. Above them, the three purple suns of Luminar shone down on the first day of a truly peaceful galaxy. In space around them, ships that had come to fight were now working together to build something amazing. And through the network, the thought song of millions of beings harmonized in a symphony that would have been impossible for any single species to create alone. Daeho had come to the stars to translate between different forms of consciousness. Instead, he had helped create a new form of consciousness entirely, one that included everyone, excluded no one, and proved that the universe was vast enough for all types of thinking to coexist and thrive. It was, he thought as he watched Nexus, units and Asterians and Void Singers and humans work together, the most human thing he had ever done. Because being human wasn't about being better than other species. It was about helping everyone be better together. The network hummed with agreement, carrying that thought to every connected mind in the galaxy, and in that moment, everyone understood what home really meant. Not a place you come from, but a community you choose to build with the people you love.